Hello, my name's Rosemary Townsend. I'm a speech and language therapist and I work for a charity called Dyscover. My specialism is aphasia and I have a particular interest in primary progressive aphasia. I've been asked to talk a bit about what Dyscover offers people living with this condition. I'm going to try and keep this easy to follow and simple, and so I have some slides which I'm going to share to help me do that. I'm just going to share my screen now. Okay, I hope you can see that. And I think a good place to start is just to, first of all, give an explanation of PPA. Primary progressive aphasia is not a term that's familiar to many people. And that can be the first challenge, I think, for people when they have a diagnosis, is explaining to others and understanding it themselves. So PPA is an umbrella term. It refers to a group of rare dementias that affect a person's speech and language and really impact their communication. There are different variants of PPA, and symptoms vary according to the part of the brain that is affected. I thought the best way to approach this was to think of the 4 questions that people most commonly ask me. What is Dyscover? Where is Dyscover? What help and support does Dyscover offer? And can I get help from Dyscover? And how would I do that? So we're going to go through those one by one. In fact, the first 2 I think we'll take together. So what is Dyscover and where is Dyscover? So Dyscover is a small independent specialist charity. It was set up in 1994 by a speech and language therapist who recognised that people with aphasia needed long-term support and opportunity, and the opportunity to meet others with the same condition. Dyscover is based in Leatherhead in Surrey. We occupy part of this building, which is owned by a larger charity. Although we're in Surrey, we don't just serve the southeast. So the way that Dyscover's funding is organised means that we don't have a limited catchment area. And here's a list of the places where 49 people who were referred in a 11-month period lived. So you can see that most people come from the southeast, but there are also others from further afield and even abroad. So people can drive to us from a distance if they want to, if they can, but we can also support people on Zoom. Dyscover is located in Leatherhead, close to the M25. I'm just going to go back a slide to show you that building again. Plenty of free parking, and we are easy to find and accessible in the building. There's ramps and steps. As I said, Dyscover was set up in 1994, but in 2015, I started a separate service for people with primary progressive aphasia. Prior to that, the service was solely for people with aphasia after stroke. And although that remains the most significant part of our work at Dyscover, the PPA service has been growing and developing since 2015, and I lead that. So the next question, what help and support does Dyscover offer? What we offer at Dyscover is individualised specialist speech and language therapy for people living with PPA. as I've said, it comes in two versions, or in fact three, I would say. Some people come to see us at Leatherhead in person. Some people we support on Zoom. Some people we have a mixture of the two. So we have a hybrid service with some sessions at Leatherhead complemented by others on Zoom if they come from further afield. So what does the speech and language therapy look like? Most people, again, as well as not knowing what PPA is, they don't really know what speech and language therapy for PPA looks like either. So I think it's important that I just describe what we do at Dyscover. Our support is very practical. It's focused on everyday communication. And I almost always work with couples. So the person who has the diagnosis and their communication partner. So usually the spouse might be another family member or a friend. I do sometimes see people individually as well if they don't have anyone to come with them. But the support is aimed at improving everyday communication. So this arrow shows the sort of progress that people go through when they get help at Dyscover. It starts on the left-hand side with referral, and I'll explain a bit more later on about how to refer. So people are referred to us at Dyscover, and then there is a triage phone call. So there'll be generally me or another therapist phoning up the person to gather more information, finding out about their condition, finding out if it is something that we feel we can help them with or not. If it's not, we always try to point them in the direction of more appropriate help. It's also important that at that point I explain what we can offer, because then the person who's being referred can make a decision about whether it's something they want to do. Some people, it's not what they want to do, and it's not the right time either. So I think that's another important point. Sometimes people are referred, it's not the right time, but then further down the line, I might get back in touch with them, or they might contact me, and we might set off on some treatment. Then looking at the big arrow here, again, starting on the left, once someone has decided this is what they want and I feel I can help them, they will come into Leatherhead, or I will meet them on Zoom for generally an hour and a half, and we'll carry out an assessment. And that's very much a joint assessment. It's a joint exploration of the problem in a very broad sense. I'm interested to know not only about their language breakdown, what's happening when they're trying to communicate, what problems they run into, but also what helps them, what they're finding useful, what tactics they might have developed already, the impact that's having on their participation. I always like to know what their week looks like and who they talk to and what contexts they do that in, how it's affecting their confidence and their self-esteem and identity. Communication impairment can have a very significant impact. And so the assessment process is a very broad one, looking at all those aspects. That session may also involve me providing some information and clarification about the condition, because, as I said, sometimes people come to me really not knowing what the label they've been given means. After that, people may I'll write a report for them, but they may feel that that's enough at the time. They may think, yes, I've got my information. I feel I understand the condition more, and I'm okay just to continue on my own, which is fine. On other occasions, people want more information. They might book in for another session. They might bring a family member with them. There are also other choices that people can make. Often people will benefit from therapies such as communication partner training, which is a process of helping the person with PPA and their partner to really analyze their own conversations by videoing themselves, noticing when things go wrong, what the impact of that is, and equally when things go right, and really looking at how and when people can change their communication behavior in order to provide more success and enjoyment in conversation. So it's about changing behavior through increased awareness and a lot of practice. And that may happen over 4 or 6 sessions. It varies. Other therapies might be appropriate, such as scripting therapy or other word retrieval therapies to help preserve access to words. And then another element of support, which is important at Dyscover, and I think we do well, is peer support, which means introducing you to others living with the same or similar conditions and symptoms. What's also important here at the bottom is the blue arrow, which shows you going back to the beginning and going through again. This it's what I like to offer people is the opportunity to review, to book in a review meeting when things change, if people are encountering new difficulties or finding that their strategies don't work quite as they used to and they need a refresher. And so the support we're giving here is not continuous at all. There are a series of inputs over time, and people are, I hope, equipped by these to manage their condition, to find support with others, and then knowing that they can come back for more help if they need it. So I've got some pictures here to show you. I've said that I generally work with couples, which is true, sometimes with individuals. We also work sometimes with small groups and our peer groups, obviously, too. So you've got a picture of me with a group of people here, and then a setup where I'm waiting for a couple to arrive at our offices in Leatherhead. It's very much what suits the individual. Sometimes I might see a couple, and then they might want to include their adult children in some sessions. So we've done all sorts of different combinations. Here are some pictures of our peer support groups. These meetings are quite structured and curated. I select people quite carefully for peer support groups because I think it's absolutely crucial to the success of a group to have people who have a similar impact of PPA. They might not have exactly the same variant of PPA, but their communication is affected to a similar degree. So they're at a similar stage. And I find people often share similar backgrounds or interests, hobbies, and all sorts. And we spend a lot of time kind of finding this common ground when we first make introductions. And it's extremely beneficial and useful to people to have a sense of not being on your own. So I encourage people to, once they've made connections, to continue those outside of Dyscover. And I know people do meet up and keep in contact. I also run online some regular sessions for the grown-up children of people who have PPA, people who I've seen in at Dyscover, and they are also obviously impacted, but often they don't get the support, they don't get the information they need, and they are very keen also to know that they're not alone. So that's another service we offer. I've mentioned the review and troubleshooting sessions we offer. That's again important. So often I get to know people and work with them over a number of years. And people I know value the idea of being able to get in touch by email or phone and say, I'm finding something a bit difficult now, or the tactics that we learnt before, they don't seem to be working quite so well. Can we come back in and talk about this? So I do this quite a bit, helping people to solve problems, looking at next steps and decisions they might have to make, and also signposting them to other areas of support if that's something that's going to be useful for them. Sometimes I'm also involved in helping in training paid carers if people are having help from outside of the family. And I think it's really important to mention this network of support. I'm talking about what we do at Dyscover, but Dyscover is only just one part of a couple or a family's support network. And I feel it's one of the roles I have is to help people find their network and to use their network. And the network was different for everybody. Some people may be getting a lot of support from friends or church groups or community organizations. They may have a private therapist, speech therapist, who also works with them and I liaise with. I always recommend people join Rare Dementia Support, which provides such a lot of good information and regular meetings and one-to-one support as well over the phone. So Dyscover is just part of a wider network. I think people can be helped to resource themselves. Also, a network support is important to me as a professional, and the picture there at the bottom is a picture of 3 of us speech and language therapists who have set up a UK speech and language therapists in PPA network, which now comprises, I think, over 150 speech therapists, all of whom have an interest and clinical experience in PPA. And it's extremely valuable to help us build our expertise and share knowledge too. So our last question, can I get help from Dyscover? And how? So there's a process for referral, but it's simple. We have an open referral system, so it's not necessary to go through your GP to be referred. Anybody can contact Dyscover, and the details will come at the end of this presentation. Anyone can contact Dyscover to make an inquiry or to make a referral. And referral form can be found on our website. That's something just to fill in the basic information and details, and we will get back to you. I've already explained that any location, there's no restriction on where you live to access Dyscover's services. We do, though, have a couple of criteria that people have either a diagnosis of PPA or a suspected diagnosis or symptoms which are indicative of probable PPA. and that they are able to get to Leatherhead if you're intending to drive, or that you have the device and Wi-Fi and help you need to use Zoom as an alternative. When referrals are received, I said at the beginning that there is a triage, which just basically means a phone call from myself or a colleague getting in touch to find out if we think we can help you. So not everybody is suitable. That's why we need to make sure that we ask the questions first. And also to describe to you in more detail what it would look like, because that's the choice you need to make. Okay, and it's also important for me to say that Dyscover is not part of the NHS. We don't have statutory funding. Our funding comes from grants. And so that allows us to charge about half what a private therapist would be charging. We regularly evaluate our services in all sorts of ways, using surveys and so on. I just thought I'd share this rather nice set of comments that people made when we asked the question, how would you describe Dyscover? So there's a lot of positivity and hope is really important to me. Okay, so finally, the contact details that you need in order to get in touch with Dyscover. There's a website and also a couple of email addresses there and a phone number. I hope that's been useful, and I'm always happy to talk about individual people if you want to make an inquiry and find out if this is something that suits you, or if you're a health professional, whether you want to talk about a patient that you're seeing at the moment. Thank you very much for listening.